digital twin technology. My name is Alessandro Piglia, and I am the managing partner of Kairos 3D, Italian software company that provides Gilgamesh, a next generation agnostic software platform for industrial 3D digital twin. So first of all, thank you to the Energy organization for this opportunity to have me moderate this session about digital twins. We all know that we are in a period where digitalization is not only considered an option anymore, it is needed and mandatory. And what we are really targeting with this digitalization process is human-free operation, autonomous setup, autonomous environments, leading to a more integrated man-machine environments in the near future. But also, we are in an era where the digitalization process is expected to support energy transition by connecting decarbonization with digital transformation. So we are in a period where digitalization is really seen as a key enabler for net zero emission. And to all of this, the digital twin is seen as a fundamental component, a fundamental factor to enable this digital transformation process that we need to go through. So it is very good to be here to discuss these topics. Today we have a number of very esteemed panelists with us that I am pleased to briefly introduce. So we have Shannon KATCHER, who's Executive Director for Digitalization and Data at the Gas Technology Institute. I know Shannon has spent a lot of time working with a number of different companies as they're evolving into their digital future. Thank you very much, Shannon, for being here. We have John Reynolds, CEO of the Agile FRACTAL Grid, a member of the Digital Twin Consortium, where John is also co-chair of the Natural Resources Working Group. And also John is responsible for the launch of the Mass Customization Center, focused on the decentralization of the power grid for climate change initiatives. Thank you, John. We have Ben Randall from Chevron, and Ben is the product line manager at Chevron, where I know as a change agent, he advises a variety of business units and leaders on how to plan for their future. Thank you very much, John. And last and not least, we have Ben MAHY. Ben has a very successful career in digital twin technology. Currently, he is managing director and co-owner of Support Square, an operator 4.0 company that provides technologies and tools to help frontline workers access the information they need to perform their job. So I'm really enthusiastic about being here with you. Thank you all for being here. And as we kick this off, I would like to start by saying that the topic that we are going to discuss here is not something we can address with a single approach, of course, a single definition, a single perspective. In fact, I think all of us would agree that a digital twin is not a product we can buy off the shelf. It is rather a process. So let's try to define what is a digital twin in our perspective and which benefits does it bring along. And we will start with you, Shannon. Thank you very much.
Great, Alessandro, nice to see you again, and the other panelists. It's a privilege to sit here with each of you. So thanks for having me. I think we all have a slightly different vision of what a digital twin is and maybe what it isn't also. And for me, it's not only a digital representation of our physical assets, but it's also inclusive of our people and our processes. So we have to really make a specific intention to set out, as we're laying out what a digital twin means for our organization, how that lines up with our goals and our organizational metrics that we have to measure and meet. We have to understand how our people and our processes are integrated with that. And particularly of interest to me, the benefits of a digital twin are not only to predict and simulate different things that could happen with our infrastructure and our equipment, but how we can move faster, especially as Alessandro sort of alluded to, that we're moving at an unprecedented pace for energy transitions at this point. And we need to rely in some ways on our digital solutions to enable us to get there with speed and with scale. But we also have to really remember that our most important assets are our people. So we have to understand how to integrate and incorporate our people and our processes within our digital twin representations. So I think that that's really what digital twins mean to me. And the benefits are, like I said, helping us to move much faster. We're talking about digitalization being a business imperative, which is also something Alessandro already said. So I think that that's really critical. We need to make sure that we're leveraging the tools that are available to us to meet the goals that we have coming ahead.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Interesting perspective. And I will now move it to you, Ben Mahy. What is a digital twin for your perspective?
First of all, thanks for letting me be part of your panel. Digital twin to me is really, well, it is a container concept, but it is basically a model representation of reality that allows you to perform a whole range of functions. In process industry, it's often related to predictive maintenance. In the area in which we are active, it's a digital replica of a process and its people, with the goal of providing real-time support in behavior. So providing frictionless access to the information that somebody needs when he's performing his job, right? So, and the benefit being, of course, relating to what Shannon was mentioning, that as disruptions, technological disruptions and new technologies arise, the pain to get operators being able to leverage those technologies is going to grow ever more. The amount of information they'll need to process is going to grow ever more. And then being able to provide the right information at the right time to people to perform their job is going to be a necessity. And that's in a concept of operator-oriented, people-oriented digital twins. That's how we see the core definition.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. I will now move on to you, John Reynolds, please, from the Digital Twin Consortium.
Yes, and thank you very much also for being invited to be with you on the panel today. The Digital Twin Consortium looks at the digital twin as really a virtual simulator of the real world as far as what's actually going on. But it gets loaded and used on different time horizons. It's first of all a product of the planning and design activities in which you actually put together the initial stages in somewhat historical data as far as what's going on. But then as it comes together, it becomes a real-time mechanism that is actually responsible for monitoring what's going on, especially in the power grid where it's down at the millisecond level as far as what's going on. But then it also is part of we call it the recurring loop, as far as being able to make decisions and to be able to actuate actual change to what's actually going on. So anyhow, it's all of these things. So it represents the planning, the engineering design, the construction, the systems integration of all the smart elements, the commissioning, and then the operation of what's actually going on. That's how we define the digital twin, and it has to be a continuous activity. It can't be a disjointed arrangement in which construction does one thing and then you start all over again for the operation. It's a continuous thread, and the digital twin is actually part of the production operation.
Thank you very much, John. Very interesting. The continuous nature of the digital twin and the ongoing thread. It's during the asset life cycle and the current operational life cycle. It's really an important aspect of the topic. And last, and of course not least, Ben Randell. What's your perspective, Ben?
Thanks, Alessandro. Last but not least, I prefer to save the best for last, but really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this panel and really agree with everything that the previous panelists have alluded to. So for me, a digital twin is the closest humanity's ever come to predicting the future. It's not a new concept. If we think back to apples falling out of trees or trying to monitor what's happening and explain why, but we're living in an age, the previous panelists alluded to it, we've never seen, the world's never changed this quickly before, and it's probably never going to change this slowly again. And so we have this convergence of, excuse me, this convergence of our physical and digital worlds with this exponential increase in data available. And so I believe we can get as close as we ever have to really seeing the future. And that to me is exciting. So So what's the benefit? Well, simply put, we can enable unprecedented safety, operational and financial performance, which I think is why we all come to work at the end of the day. And just on a personal note, my passion is to remove pain points in all of our jobs. I call this engineering happiness, and a digital twin is going to be a huge component or a huge building block on our journey to realizing this vision.
Thank you very much. Very precise definition with also a romantic aspect, which we need to keep on moving, you know, to keep moving forward, because we don't have to forget that we are human, and we need also to put our human aspects in this journey. So thank you very much. And now let's move forward to the second topic that we will be addressing here. And, you know, with this digital transformation process and journey that we are all embarked on, being you a plant owner, an engineer provider, a technology vendor, there are different perspectives on how to address a number of challenges and difficult. So I would like to know, what are your perspective on the core challenges and on the themes that our audience should be thinking about, whether you are an owner, a supplier. What are the core challenges that people must have on their mind during a digital twin implementation? Is it more a technical challenge or an organizational one? I will start with Ben Randell, who I know that has a particular good understanding of leaders, sometimes not relinquishing their control, and I know you have good perspective also of the know-it-all leaders versus the learning leaders and their kind of adaptability to this process, to this change process. So Ben.
Thank you, Alessandro. I think Shannon talked about integrating people, Ben talked about being people-oriented, and John talked about integrating and making it a continuous cycle. So I agree, the biggest challenge for leaders in this space is relinquishing their control. If you're a leader with decades of domain knowledge, if you're used to being the door that everyone's always knocking on to get the right answer from, then you are a bit of a poor boy digital twin, at least in my view, and you understand the system. So the concept of a computer doing this or helping you do this can be quite threatening. And thank you for, I like that term a lot, Alessandro, the know-it-all leader. If you're a know-it-all leader, the idea of someone else knowing something, or better yet, a computer knowing something better than you, it's very threatening. It's very confronting. And unfortunately, the know-it-all leader tends to fall into the or world, and I call it the or world of it's my way or your way. And what we really need from leaders in the future is for us to embrace an and culture, where we say, I have my domain knowledge and I have my expertise, and you bring a whole lot of real-time data and measuring in milliseconds that was never possible before. So that's really the concept of a learning leader. They're very welcoming to this. They can embrace this, and I believe this is how we'll move forward, is by having more learning leaders than we have know-it-all leaders. I'd add one second challenge. So from my view, you can tell it's not about the technology. The technology is there. It has its own set of challenges, but the technology is nothing without leaders that want to implement it. And I think the leaders need to set the tone from the top, and then we need a workforce that's equally willing to embrace it. Computers can bring a lot of value to what our workers do, but again, if it's the or mentality of I do it this way and I lock my answers up in a secret drawer and you need to come to me to get it, and I'm not interested in what a algorithm or data or a digital twin can do, then we aren't going to transform very much of anything.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think all of us will agree. Ben Mahy, what's your perspective of this? Remember to unmute. Unmute yourself.
Well, that's a very multidimensional question, because broadly, of course, the organizational obstacles are by far the ones with the most impact. If only, as John was talking about the usage of the digital twin across the whole life cycle, however we look at it, there's still quite a lot of silos. I've been involved in usage of digital twins and investment analysis and virtual commissioning in decision support, and the number of times that you need info or definitions in one silo that has value to the other silo, and that is hard to transfer, is a key obstacle in getting anything with a low cost of ownership being adopted across an organization. So if you look at the landscape of really digital twin solutions, you often see very tiny applications on a piece of equipment that does great work in predicting issues, but the broader application and the broader system description is confronted with, well, both the technical but the organizational obstacles.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you very much, yeah, for your comment. And Shannon, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what both of the Bens said, but I think I would add, a couple of points that when it comes down to it, technology is a tool, right? We need to have intention in how we're using that technology and how it matches up to our goals and the value proposition that they're supposed to serve. So while there are technology challenges, I agree with what Ben Randall said, that the technology is there. Something that I've heard John say before actually is that one thing as we integrate these technologies, we need to be looking at how we're speaking the same language between the technologies and framing this up with the right ontologies, the right semantics, and the way that we use and leverage these technologies. So there is still a lot to do on the technology side, but again, the technology is just a tool that we need to use to leverage to meet our goals. And the organizational side of things, we're talking about significant change. We're talking about massive disruption. And we're also talking about asking our workforce to do exactly what their job is today up until the moment that we ask them to do it differently. So we as leaders, again, need to make sure that we're enabling our workforce to be able to, have the reskilling or upskilling opportunities where they present themselves, to make sure that we're not just, making people irrelevant. Our workforce really is the most important asset of our organizations, and we need to make sure that we're prepared to make these changes. I think we all understand that, even in, I think it was the jobs report by the World Economic Forum that said somewhere around 40 to 50% of workers will need to adapt and develop their new skills within their jobs in the next decade. So we need to think about how we enable our organizations to do that, because we have no choice but to leverage these digital tools, and we also have no choice but to support our workforce in making those changes.
Thank you very much. We're definitely demystifying technology here. Technology is just a commodity we should leverage, but the problem and the challenge is on people and organizations. And I know John Reynolds from the Digital Twin Consortium knows something about that, right, John?
Yes, I think we have to agree with everybody's statements here as far as what's going forward. The humorous part about this is not new. The Tower of Babel of biblical fame has been around for quite some time, and viewed with the problem we're trying to solve here, if we don't actually address that and deal with that, then we're going to have the same outcome. But I think that the real realization, when you're trying to do something at national scale as far as what's going on, this is a team of teams effort. And if you look at the National Football League or the soccer teams, this is not quite so much about individual stars. It's a matter of how the team actually works. And so as we look at the incentives that the construction industry has versus the incentives that the facilities operations and manufacturing has, what's important is to keep in mind what was the desired outcomes of the actual owners. And so this is a very important aspect, to be able to synchronize what's going on so that people know how to work with each other. So as we put together those mechanisms for synchronization, weekly, daily, as that happens, that's very, very important, because this problem doesn't go away with technology. This has been around for thousands of years as far as what's going on. We just need to apply the new tools of communication so that we can have a shared consciousness of what's going on, but then delegate the actual efforts to the edge so that we're able to use the best of the best on this. So that's what we need to be able to do.
I love this concept of shared consciousness. Very nice definition, which is actually something that the digitalization process should address. And yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, John, for your perspective. So now let's to address the last topic of our discussion. Let's now to provide some insights on how to build a digital twin roadmap. Which are the things that you may want to consider? And of course, we know that it won't be one size fits all. It will be different for different people, different companies, even different groups and teams within the same company. But for sure, there are some common themes. And also, the roadmap would depend on what you want to do. I mean, it would be a digital twin for asset health tracking purposes or field operator supports, or being it a digital twin for simulation purposes. All of these functional requirements would require likely a different roadmap. And in any case, which are the strategies, in your opinion, to implement a digital twin roadmap? And I would start with Ben Mahy this time.
Beware of a hot air factory, right? I have a lot of kilometers or miles on my dashboard, and so I've become ever more pragmatic in our approach to providing digital twin technology, and the concept is to a large sense understood and appreciated and established as a goal by a large part of the industry or industry visionaries. But the realization is a different ball game, and so the pragmatism lies in well, it's pretty obvious, in start with low-hanging fruit, right? And create momentum out of success, and that is basically matching both the effort of realizing a certain goal versus the benefit of that goal, and so and that is specific for any environment you get into. The data maturity, definitely, if you talk process assets. And so the union-oriented part is often a hurdle, but getting an overall momentum within the organization definitely is, and that only comes with success stories.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think that this pragmatism should also embrace an agile approach, because as you said, reach targets, gain momentum through successful delivery means also being very agile, because it is not possible to design upfront a rigid roadmap, to go from here up to there in time. We should do cycles with our business users, involve them frequently, so to also be able to reassess the direction of the roadmap in order to address the outcomes of previous activities and reach some results cycle by cycle. Shannon, do you agree? Which is your perspective on how to implement digital twin successfully? Which would be the optimal roadmap?
Alessandro, I love what you just said about being very agile in our approach. I mean, we all understand in working in the world of technology how quickly things change in general. The questions that we're asking today might not be the same questions that we're asking tomorrow. And the data that we have today might not be able to answer all those questions that we have tomorrow. So we really do need to have a very agile perspective, really iterative cycles on how we manage our roadmap. But we do need to plan. So we do need to plan ahead. And I think that you laid that out really well, Alessandro, that we need to have an understanding, and the other panelists all mentioned this in different ways too. We really need to have an understanding of what we're trying to achieve as an organization and back into what we need to do to get there. So I can't tell you how many times I've heard organizations say, well, we're collecting, 200% more data points than we were last year, or, something very, it just had no real value behind it. And, my question to them is always, well, what are you getting out of that information? And how does that help you meet the value proposition that you have? And at times, sometimes organizations don't even know how to identify what the value proposition is. So you really have to identify what questions you have in order to understand what that roadmap looks like. And then iteratively revisit that roadmap and what it looks like, because we all know that things are changing so quickly, especially when we're talking about the energy industry and we're talking about digital technologies. Things are moving at a pace that has never been realized before. And so we need to be very aware of that and agile in our approach. So really well said. And I think that I very much agree with the panelists here in how we, in addition to laying out that roadmap, make that really transparent throughout our organizations as well, so that there's buy-in from the top down and the bottom up.
Absolutely, yeah, totally agree. Thank you very much. Let's move forward with John. John, in your experience and also from the Digital Twin Consortium perspective, which are the challenges in creating a successful roadmap for a digital twin implementation?
Well, I think from the perspective of the consortium, there are different types of digital twins. And what most people talk about is a digital twin that you use to build a specific building or that sort of thing. But then if you look at this at scale, if you take a look at the climate change initiative, that sort of thing, building the next microgrid does not necessarily put a dent in what the problem is as far as what's going on. So the challenge is not how to build the next microgrid or solar panel, but how do you do 10,000 of them or 1,000 at a time? So the concept within the DTC is, in the first place, how do you create a kind of a virtual factory that turns out digital twins? Now that's a little bit of a problem because no two implementations are ever the same. No site is the same, the technologies are different, the situations are different. So you have to have a kind of a template, mass customization type of factory to generate your digital twin, and it has to be done by the people who live there. This is not a centrally controlled thing. This has to be such that you can have lots and lots of different groups all participating. So you should never try to design a thing like this unless you have understood what its fit is in the next larger context of things. That's very important. And the next tool is that you must use a set of design patterns such that people can easily create their own implementation and then put together a composite tool as far as things that might be available for them. Fortunately, we have tools now that allow you to do this sort of thing, but it requires more of a Toyota manufacturing plant where every car going down the line can be different as far as what's going. You need to have that kind of thing. So first step is think about what is the factory that's going to turn these thousands of different implementations out, each one somewhat unique and different, and then actually test your theories on a handful of different pilots, but then actually operate this where you have 1,000 of these going in at the same time. That's what we're trying to do with the technology showcase at the Digital Twin Consortium, and that's underway, starting in New York City, but we'll have 23 cities actually participating in this.
Yeah, definitely. The agile approach is needed, but the standardization in terms of scalability potential is as crucial as the agile approach. So definitely, it's a challenge to merge the two, but you should start by remembering that these two aspects are absolutely crucial aspects in terms of successful, repeatable implementations. Absolutely. And we will end up with you, Ben Randall. Which is your perspective
Thanks,
on
Alessandro.
the strategies to design a successful digital twin roadmap?
I think it's been captured well by the other panelists, and without some kind of roadmap, it's pretty difficult to know where you're going to go or how you're going to get there. And I really like the term of the hot air factory. We don't want to fall victim to that. So you said it, Alessandro, that there's no one size fits all. You need a roadmap implementation that is consistent with your corporate culture. I think Shannon referred to this, talking the same language. It doesn't mean you can't look at what's out there. Back to what John was saying, if we're going to do this at scale, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I'd say understand what your competitive advantage is, what your differentiator is as a company, focus on building out pieces there, and look to adopt and steal everything else that you can. So we need leadership support from the top. I think this was touched on already. If it's not important to the C-suite, it's going to be pretty irrelevant to everyone else. And really being outcome focused, I think, as John alluded to in how you do this. And the human, I can't emphasize it enough, the human workforce, it's a lot for them to take on. It's a lot for them it's a lot of change. And I really like John Cotter's teaching on change. He has 8 steps. And I think Ben was referring to the quick win example there. So to answer the question, I think focus on your business goals. What is your value proposition? What are your biggest challenges? What challenges seem absolutely insurmountable? And how could a digital twin help you reimagine your business? And ultimately, how can you make people's lives better? How can you engineer happiness with your digital twin? I think those are the questions to ask yourself, and that will lead to a roadmap that is not just the hot air factory.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. I remember last time we met, we spoke about the honest assessment of your organization, where you are, but also honest assessment of yourselves, of ourselves. Are we wanting to put us in game? Do we want to be open, to be transparent with this digital twin approaches? And I think, yeah, as we touch base in this discussion, I mean, I think we never mentioned technology. Technology is given. We mentioned people and processes, metric to measure, different way to better perform jobs. So it's not a matter of really of technology. It's just a matter of change management, of pragmatic approaches, as Ben said, scalability and standardization. I think really the nature of our work and the nature of work is changing and will be changing so fast that we don't be afraid of it. We just need to embrace the change and don't be afraid to be wrong. Also, it's okay to make some few mistakes in the beginning, but if we don't start with this, if we don't start with this approach, if we wait to know it all, if we wait to know it all, we will never start. So I think we are in the beginning phases of this digital transformation journey, but the approach that I could hear from all of you here, guys, is really human-oriented. Change the perspective of changing our organization is what is driving all of us in terms of our priorities, and I think that this is the real glue to merge, you know, technology, the available technology, the available enormous amount of data which we are starting to have, with the way processes, metrics to transform this data into valuable information that will better drive our jobs, our businesses, and will allow everybody to make better informed decisions. So as we said, we conclude here, and I would say that as leader, let's all work together to engineer happiness. And thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. It's really an honor for myself to be in touch with you. Some of you again, some other was the first time that I was meeting in this panel, but I really appreciate your contribution, and I think our audience will have a great value by the words that we could share today. So thank you very much, and have a good day.